Right, so how is everybody doing? Right, we have something very exciting to talk about today, and by very exciting, I mean this is possibly the most exciting piece of comic book news since pretty much anything, to be honest. This is the most exciting thing to happen to comic books since the MCU started. And essentially that is, if you've been hanging around on any of the Marvel or DC social media pages, you probably will have seen, and I will not be the first to cover this. A lot of people will probably get to this first, and a lot of other people, probably not even comic book content creators, probably a lot of like Injustice people going to talk about this. I bet you Caboose XBL will get to this before me because he gets to everything before me. Yeah, this is a big one. In September of this year, we are going to be getting Batman / Deadpool #1. And why is this big? Because there hasn't been a DC Marvel crossover in about 30 years. Since the 90s / maybe the year 2000. I think the last one was 98, I believe, with Avengers versus Justice League. I wasn't alive when that came out. So I have lived my entire life without a Marvel DC crossover. Did I expect that the first one would be Batman and Deadpool? No. I hope we get Deadpool fighting Deathstroke in this. I think that would be really cool. Even cooler would be Deathstroke fighting Taskmaster. I think that's more of a match, those two, than probably Deadpool. Even though Deadpool is a parody of Deathstroke, I feel like Deathstroke's character is more in line with what Taskmaster is, or what Taskmaster has kind of become. This is just really exciting news, and it opens the doors to so many things. And the reason why I wanted to make a video about this is buy this damn comic book, because even if this isn't good, which there is no way that the first in what I hope is a long line of Marvel DC crossovers, of modern Marvel DC crossovers, I hope that these are successful. I, for one, will be going out and purchasing Batman Deadpool. I keep wanting to say Batman Daredevil because that's the one that I would have wanted. To be fair, 2 of those exist, and from what I've heard, neither of them are that great. But I do want to give this a shot, and I do want this to succeed because of the doors that it opens. And a reason why I mention that Injustice people might be getting in on this, or people that do content on NetherRealm games, is this opens the door to where we're seeing kind of a lax in excitement around Mortal Kombat. And we're seeing people maybe want an Injustice 3. I still think Injustice 3 is a thing that will happen. This opens the doors to maybe Wolverine and Injustice. I still think if they put any Marvel character into Injustice, it's probably got to be Wolverine. Might be Deadpool, since he's the one that's getting a crossover first in this. I would have preferred seeing Deadpool in a Mortal Kombat. But you know, what this eventually opens the doors into, I think if we get a Marvel character showing up in Injustice 3, which I think is even more likely now because of this, I think we're going to end up with a Marvel vs. DC video game from NetherRealm Studios sooner rather than later. I wholly believe that now. I wanna just put that into the universe. I think we're going to get a Marvel versus DC video game by NetherRealm Studios in the next 10 years. I think after Injustice 3, that's the next thing that they're working on. Because now this is their green light to do that. They probably wanted to do that for ages. Ed Boon has probably wanted to do that for ages. This is their green light to do that. Where we're seeing a lax in excitement for Mortal Kombat, put the brakes on for that. Marvel versus DC. This is the perfect opportunity to do that, because, you know, it's gonna be fresh in people's minds. You want to see, hopefully by the time that game comes out, we'll then be seeing a Marvel DC crossover comic book. That might even be what the big ultimate absolute universe event is going to be. Maybe we don't get a crossover, or a big crossover between the Marvel universe and the DC universe. We don't get like Earth 1 DC universe with the 616 Marvel universe. Maybe we get the Ultimate Universe crossing over with the Absolute Universe. That might be what we get. I don't know. I think either way, it might be interesting, especially since Dennis Camp is working both sides at that point. He's doing Ultimates, and he's doing Absolute Martian Manhunter, which isn't the top book in the Absolute line, but it's apparently good. Apparently it's really good. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. If we have any, if there's any DC Marvel crossovers that I would like to see in the future, I think Hawkeye and Green Arrow need to meet up at some point. I think Spider-Man and the Flash need to meet up at some point. I could take an entire series of those two, back and forthing with each other. Ideally, it would be Wally West and Peter Parker, but I would honestly take Barry and Peter and Wally and Miles, maybe. Although I think Miles might get on more with Kid Flash, maybe. And even then, you can do a thing with like Miguel O'Hara getting on with Jay Garrick, or because the whole like Spider-Man, like Spider-Verse with the whole Flash family, you could do a lot of stuff with that. You could do a lot of stuff, and getting the Rogues to meet the Sinister Six, that'd be really cool. Yeah, I feel like that's a big one. I don't know why I started with Green Arrow and Hawkeye. That's not a story that I don't think there's much there with that, really. I don't think there's much there at all. I think there's something interesting you could do with like Amanda Waller and Nick Fury. I think if you get those two characters to have a conversation, or maybe Amanda Waller and Maria Hill, I think if you get those two characters in a room, especially with how Maria Hill was during a Secret Invasion, I mean the comic, not the show, Secret Invasion and Civil War, and then you have Amanda Waller with how she was like during what do you call it? Absolute power. I feel like there you have a really cool dynamic, and obviously you've got characters that have been introduced recently that haven't been able to talk to each other or haven't been able to interact yet. So you've got characters like Ghost Rider, Jaime Reyes, or Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider, and Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes. I think there could be a cool back and forth with how they've got the same surname, and they're both Latino descent. There can be an interesting back and forth between those two characters. I don't have many ideas off the top of my head personally, apart from like the obvious ones. Apart from like Batman's got to meet up with Wolverine. Batman's got to meet up with Daredevil. I would quite like to see a Luke Cage dealing with I would quite like to see Batman dealing with Daredevil's Rogues Gallery, not just Kingpin. But I would also like to see maybe like Cyborg and Vision, or like maybe even Red Tornado and Vision. I don't think there's much in there, but I think there's a story. Someone might have a story somewhere for those characters, maybe. I don't know. I don't have much. But obviously, like the Teen Titans and the Young Avengers, that would be a really fun mashup. Especially since even the Titans and the Champions, because they're both like teams of legacy heroes. And by legacy heroes, I don't mean, I mean like they're teams of sidekicks that have kind of grown past being sidekicks, but haven't quite become their own team yet. I feel like that's a really interesting thing to go on. I feel like the Doom Patrol meeting with the X-Men would be really fun. I think Niles Calder and and Professor Xavier could have a really good have a really cool conversation, and he could basically be like, "Oh yeah, you're a fucking monster, Niles. You're my students were born this way. You made monsters." I feel like there's a interesting conversation that could be had there. I feel like, there's a lot of stories that can be told. There's a lot of really interesting things that could happen. My mind goes to extended media, and what does crossovers in the comics mean for the rest of media? And I don't see there being a Marvel versus DC movie anytime soon. Give it 20 years, I think there'll be conversations, but I don't see that happening even in my lifetime. I don't think I'll be alive to see that movie. Unless it's animated. I think I'll be alive to see an animated version of that movie. And I don't think it would be good. I don't have any faith that kind of a story can be done well at all. I don't think there is a movie that can be long enough to make that feel like a worthwhile watch. I think what might be more viable is us getting like animated mini shows, or like animated shows of individual crossovers. So like we might get a show of Batman Daredevil, we might get a show of Superman Hulk, we might get a show of like Hulk dealing with Doomsday, or like how do the Justice League deal with Thanos? It could be like this. It could be like a what if kind of scenario, or kind of a thing. What I would like to see personally is, I hope this means that DC stuff can end up showing up on Disney Plus. I don't think that's going to happen. But I would like to see it, because A, it would make me feel more justified for that subscription, and B, we don't get HBO shows over in the UK. The only way to get HBO shows, we still haven't gotten Creature Commandos. We got Peacemaker 2 months after the US did. We don't get HBO shows unless, we get a few. We get hand-selected ones. Like, we got The Last of Us. We got House of the Dragon. We haven't got Creature Commandos yet. I don't know if that's not a big enough show to be shown in other countries that aren't the US legally. But our only way of seeing that show now, in current times, is through dubious methods. So I'm hoping, I would just like to see that show, maybe. And I would like to have to not wait for Peacemaker Season 2. I would like to have to not wait for Lanterns. I would like to have to not wait for Booster Gold. I would like to have to not wait for Waller. I would like to have to not jump through hoops to see these things. James. Mr. Gunn. But I digress with that sentiment. This really has nothing to do with that. I don't think a DC Marvel crossover in any kind of capacity will lead to HBO shows being easier to access in the UK. I would have hoped that James Gunn taking the reins at DC would have, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just a fact of animation isn't held as high regard as live action over here. So even if we did get it, it would be hidden. It wouldn't be on the front page. The sky background wouldn't be made to look like fungus, or to look like clickers, or whatever they're called in The Last of Us, or wouldn't be made of fire to look like House of the Dragon. I don't know. I'm hopeful for the future for both of these companies. I think this will be a huge thing for the comic book industry, because I think if people see Daredevil and Batman on the front cover of a comic book, they'll be like, what the fuck is this? It might add to more conversation. It might add to more confusion of who is in what universe, and why has Batman not appeared in the Avengers? Why is Iron Man not in Justice League? And the new Superman movie is going to have Captain America in it, isn't it? I think there's going to be more confusion in that aspect. But I think we're past that also. I don't see that kind of rhetoric on anywhere. I don't see much of the universe and confusion where it comes to who's in what. I don't think there's much confusion in there. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for Batman x Deadpool. If you have any ideas in the comments of what Marvel DC team ups you would like to see in the future, let me know, and I'll ring up my boys at Marvel, or I'll ring up my boy James Gunn and be like, yo, Martha didn't die 23 wants to see Solomon Grundy beat up friggin' wants to see Solomon Grundy beat up Abomination. Let's make it happen. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'm gonna go stream. This video will be up probably tomorrow. Filming this on Tuesday. It'll probably be up on Wednesday. See you guys then. And see you guys on stream. Bye.